You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. Hello, and welcome back for another episode of I Love It When. I'm your host, Mo. And today we have a topic on the table that was suggested by an audience member. They wanted to know, how do you start to utilize your intuition and how do you build on it? And I have started and stopped this episode twice now. I've gotten like 30 seconds to a minute in and I've just been like, no, I don't like that intro. And I think I recognize I'm such a big believer in words and the power of words that I want to make sure that I do this justice. And I want to start off by defining what is intuition. And to me, this is how I describe it. Intuition is messages and information that I get from my higher self. Now, for those of you that may know nothing about spirituality or have never explored it before, I just want you to settle in. This is going to be really good, and I'm curious to see what your response is and what you think about this and how you see it. When I first started to use my intuition, it was really focusing on what do I truly want? Because for so long, I was focused solely on what other people needed and what other people wanted, either for themselves or what they thought that I should be doing. And that was really the first 30 years of my life, because I love seeing people happy. And I also definitely had a hard time with confrontation. And so I did not understand how to conquer that feeling of fear and anxiety and anxiousness that I would get whenever I was confronted with someone who either didn't like what I was doing or was upset about something. And so I really had to confront those fears first before I was able to start really utilizing my intuition on a deeper level. And so I see intuition as this version of myself, a part of the universe that truly knows my desires and what I want more of. And I see it as them like trying to constantly send me messages and have a relationship with me, talk with me, know that I have them for support, and that whatever my desires are, if they're of pure intention, I can make it happen. And so that might look like maybe one day I have the urge to go get a coffee, and that takes me to a particular coffee shop where I end up meeting someone where there's an opportunity to collaborate with my business. So these different urges that I get usually just come mostly from my body, meaning it's not really a head thing. Like I might get the urge to, oh, I really like a coffee would taste really good right now, or Thai food sounds amazing, or I really want to go be in the water. I want to be by the water. Where can I go to be by the water? And it's less in my head, it's more in my body. And so there are a couple different pieces that I've broken down that we're going to dive into today about how to begin to use your intuition and then how to build off of that. And there are 4 different sections that I've kind of broken this down into. The first one is building your self-awareness. The second one is taking stock of what you tolerate in your life. The third one is to give yourself permission to say yes to what you desire. And then the fourth one is taking inspired action. So I'm going to go into each of these different topics and talk a little bit about what I mean by that. So please feel free to message me on Instagram, email me, mo@iloveitwhen.org. I would love to know what you think about this episode and what you want more of as well, what you'd like me to do different solo episodes about. So this first section of building self-awareness, this is huge. I have been working on and building on my self-awareness really my entire life. And when I started doing it with intention, I was about 31 years old. Well, really probably like 25. When I got my master's degree in social work, we did and studied a lot around classism, sexism, racism, and I really began to study my own personal biases and where I learned them from. And so that definitely sent me in that direction. And then when I joined a real estate team and personal development was a part of how the company operated, I was introduced to a whole new arena of personal growth that I'd never been exposed to before. And because of that, I happened upon the book called The Miracle Morning, and it sat on my shelf in my bedroom for probably 5 years before I picked it up, because mostly because I didn't want an early morning routine. I have always really enjoyed my sleep in the mornings. I'm the type of person who needs to get anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And recently, it's more on the 9 hour end. Recently, since I've started my company and really started digging even further into more of what my body needs. And then one day I heard Hal Elrod, who's the author of The Miracle Morning, speaking on, it was either YouTube or Instagram, and he was saying, like, this routine doesn't have to be done at 5 in the morning. It can be done at any time of day you want. And I kind of needed to hear that. And so I picked up the book and I started to read it. And I remember I asked if any of my friends at the time wanted to read it with me. And so we had a little bit of a group going. And this is what introduced me to meditation, which has forever changed my life. So if you don't know the Miracle Morning book, Hal has written a number of different books based off of that first one. And it's the original one that I read, and he has something he calls the savers. And it's a routine basically that you do every day for anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. And the savers are silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. Now, I love a good routine, and at the same time, it takes a lot of self-discipline for me to instill a new habit. And so I started off making it as easy for myself as possible. And so I did get up at 5 a.m. because I wanted to see what that experience added to it, because he did say you didn't have to do it, but he said that meditating in the morning was very different than meditating at different times of the day, because you're just waking up from sleep and your brain is still in that state. I think it's either theta, or there's another state that your brain is in when you just wake up, and you're really susceptible and open to new programming. And so if you want to install a new program into your head, this is the best time of day to do it. And that makes sense to me. And so I started off with just doing each saver for 2 minutes in the morning. So it was a total of 12 minutes a day. I was like, I can do this. And it was amazing. Nothing much happened the first week, but I got around to day 20 and I was like, what is this feeling? There was this sense of relaxation and peace in my body, like definitely in my chest area and also in my stomach, that I noticed. And it was after day 20 that I recognized that specifically the meditation aspect started to make me feel like I was on vacation. And it lasted almost throughout my entire day. I was starting to approach some people that normally would have perhaps irritated me or caused me some anxiety. I was approaching them with a different frame of mind. And that's when I really started to take note. Okay, there's something here about this that is beginning to make sense. And there's another book called Tribe of Mentors that actually comes to mind that I read while I was on the team as well. And I love to notice themes. And I noticed that in Tribe of Mentors, he interviews over 100 different people and asks them all sorts of questions about their success. And so they're authors, actresses, actors, speakers. They're people who are considered to be successful in their industry. He asked them, like, what are a couple of the things that you've done that you think have added to your success? And above and beyond, like by far, meditation came up for almost every single person. And so when I saw that, I was like, well, you've got to recognize that there's something to this. And so meditation is really what led me to this next level of self-awareness that I believe I needed to really be even more in tune with my intuition. On top of meditation, I want to talk a little bit about deep listening and active listening. I feel very fortunate that I was quite a shy and introverted kid, because it led me to just kind of listen. Now, I was also an active listener, meaning that I was putting my energy towards the person in the room who was speaking. So I was actually taking in their words and their energy and their presence and what their meaning was behind everything. And so because I was so attentive, I, like I said, spent those first like 30 years of my life really listening deeply to everyone that I was with. And through that, I gained so much knowledge, so much wisdom from other people's experiences. I also learned a lot about body language and about energy and about what it feels like to be talking to someone who's not actually listening to me, what it feels like to have an exchange with someone who does listen to me. You start to learn all these little telltale signs of what someone actually means behind their words. So a lot of people say things, but they mean something differently. And it just brought me again a whole nother set of skills that I was able to utilize in my work and my company now, to really be present with someone and really hear them and ensure that they know that they are heard and seen by me. So deep active listening, meaning that when you're in a conversation with someone, when they're talking, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You are only with them. You are only thinking about whatever it is that they are speaking about. If you haven't tried that, I recommend trying it for like 30 days. Do it for a month and see how it changes and shifts your interactions with the people that you love and the people that you meet at the grocery store line. You will be amazed. Deep listening has changed my life. The third thing I want to talk about within self-awareness is body connection. So this is an incredibly important piece as well. You might see the word somatic coaches around on the internet a little bit, people who help other people learn how to stay connected and be connected to their body is a big piece of this work, when you're digging into your intuition, because oftentimes trauma that we experience in life disconnects us from our body, right? When we're in that flight or flight mode, we oftentimes don't want to be in our bodies anymore. We don't consider them to be safe. And so a lot of this work for people, I think people don't recognize, is releasing stuck energy and releasing emotions and things that have been stuck in our body from different events in our life so that we can feel safe in our body, so that we then can hear that inner voice. And so body connection, a big part of that for me was hot yoga. I started doing hot yoga and I didn't think I was going to like it, but I fell in love with it in 2013. And it brought me, as a former basketball and volleyball player, mostly volleyball, it brought me a new level of appreciation for my body and also a different way to build strength that I had never had before, that was much easier on my body. And it also helped me to be much more in tune and aware of the energy that flows through my body. Because I've always been told that my presence brings something to a room that lifts people up and helps them to feel seen and heard. But I had never been so aware of it as I was when I was doing hot yoga and meditation and really able to feel the energy actually coming off my body. So body connection is a big one. And then the last one around self-awareness that I want to talk about is curiosity. I learned from someone in the last few months that curiosity, being curious, is a sign of the divine. And what I mean by that is, I think in order to really show love and be love, you have to be curious in this world. And curiosity is something that has helped me to be more vulnerable. It has helped me to understand people who I've had conflicts with. When I step from a place of defensiveness into curiosity, it changes the conversation and allows for more successful conversations. And so I recognized that this was a part of building my self-awareness, was coming from a place of curiosity. It has changed how I approach people and how I interact with them, and thus it changes the results. So again, building self-awareness, I talked about meditation, deep listening, body connection, and curiosity. It's kind of the foundation. Then the next level I want to talk about is taking stock of what you tolerate. What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? And have you ever tracked it? So this was a part of what I would consider to be like the next level for me when I was building on my intuition, was now recognizing, because of meditation, listening, curiosity, and knowing what my body feels like, I started to recognize that I was saying yes to so many things I didn't actually want to do. And at one point, one of my friends told me that someone had said, God, Margaret is just everything to everyone. And that's when I said, shit, that's not okay. I can't be everything to everyone. And if I'm trying to be, that tells me that I'm not truly being myself. And so that was definitely pivotal and a point where I decided to really start being brave and saying no more. I really had this hard time thinking and feeling like I was going to disappoint people if I wasn't what they expected me to be or what they wanted me to be, that their happiness was going to be dependent on what I did and said. And I had to really recognize, like, no, it's not all about me. No, they can take care of themselves. They need to take care of themselves. I need to empower them to take care of themselves. And I also need to really acknowledge that I'm not saying yes to what my soul wants. I have actually been going against or betraying what I want. And so for a while, and sometimes I have clients do this, I tracked how often I said yes versus no during the day. And I started to only say yes to the things I really wanted to do. And there was definitely this transition period where I lost some friends, I lost some different connections. But I also really recognized and realized who were my true friends and who really wanted to support me for what I wanted to do as much as I wanted to support them and what they want to do. So I would recommend that you try that for a couple days. I usually recommend 3 to 5 days of tracking what you're tolerating and then looking for ways that you can adjust so that you feel better in your body every day and you're not just tolerating something. The other thing I recommend is taking a breath, taking a literal breath before you say yes or no to something, or giving yourself 24 hours. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, can you babysit my kids tomorrow?" as a example, say, "Hey, I'm going to have to take a couple minutes to think about that. Let me check my schedule and get back to you." Or take a breath, like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. Whatever answer comes out is exactly what it's supposed to be. But give yourself a moment to really think and feel into your body. Does this feel like something I want to do? Or am I just saying yes because I know they want me to say yes? Okay. The third level I want to talk about is giving yourself permission to say yes. Giving yourself permission to say yes to what your desires are. I want to remind you that nothing is permanent. So if you start saying yes to some things and then recognize that it's not actually what you want, that's cool too, because the more you know, right? If you had never tried skydiving, maybe you wouldn't have recognized that you loved it. I don't think that's me, but if that's you, do it. One of the ways in which I did this was I had always had this desire in my heart to see a psychic. I don't know why. There was just something in me that was just like, this sounds like so much fun. And it also feels like I'm kind of breaking the rules because from everything I had been kind of told growing up, just in different ways, it was not ever really in my face, but I just felt like people would think it was kind of wrong because psychics can see the future and you're not supposed to do that. That is evil. And so I recognized that I had this desire. And so I started to allow myself to play. And I chose to have appointments with people that I felt like I could trust. And I learned through trial and error, like, oh, this is what it means when I get a sign that's like, this is not actually a person for me. Here's what it feels like when this is someone that could help me. And you start to recognize, just like with any other industry, there are certain people you're drawn to for a reason. And so I started to allow myself to play with that realm of spirituality. I got myself crystals because I always thought they were just beautiful and I love having them in my space. I have crystals all over my office and I use different crystals for different reasons. Some are to help me speak. I always have this blue one, I actually forget what it's called, with me whenever I'm doing a podcast or speaking at an event online, whatever has to do with my voice and allowing myself to just flow. I always have that near me and I love it. It definitely helps me. And then tarot cards, oracle cards, I allowed myself to finally get some decks and start to play with those. And I began to recognize through this play how much I had given away what was good for me to someone else, how much I had allowed someone else's opinion to affect what I was getting to experience in this world. And so that was just the beginning of me really leaning into what felt good. And so along those lines, I also got certified as a Reiki practitioner last year. And that was a fantastic experience. And I love being able to give energy healing sessions now. Now I understand that when people sit with me and they're coaching with me or working with me one-on-one, now I understand more of how I help them alchemize. I can take someone's energy and literally help them alchemize it into a higher frequency. And I didn't realize what I was doing before. And it's so freeing and so validating and exciting to get knowledge that I know I've felt my whole life, but now I have the words to describe it, and I know what's actually happening. It's so freeing. I can't say that enough. Hello, I'm interrupting this episode for a moment to tell you about my very first podcast sponsor, Raymond Lyle CPA. If you haven't filed your taxes yet for 2022, the extension deadline of October 15th is approaching quickly. And if you don't have a preparer yet, Raymond Lyle CPA PLLC is an excellent choice. Raymond Lyle is a Seattle-based accounting firm serving clients remotely all over the Pacific Northwest and beyond. They specialize in tax prep and consultation for individuals, small businesses, rental property owners, special needs taxation, and trust and estates. Raymond Lyle CPA PLLC believes one of their most important functions is to empower you to make decisions that strengthen your financial security. They look for tax savings opportunities and help you plan for the future, not just pump out your return and move on to the next. Clients receive a personalized video walking them through their completed return, and their knowledgeable tax professional is available year-round for consultation. Preparing your own return using a tax prep software is right for some people, but every year, self-preparers make costly mistakes, leading to lost deductions and IRS penalties and interest. Especially for self-employed people, whether a small gig worker or the owner of a thriving business, you need a dedicated tax professional who knows your story, can plan with you, and is available for questions. Already filed your 2022 taxes? Raymond Lyle CPA PLLC is available year-round to support your tax planning. If you want a tax professional who is knowledgeable, accurate, accessible, and wants to empower you to make the best decisions for your financial security, visit our website, raymondlylecpa.com. to book a free initial consult. Again, that's raymondlylecpa.com. I want to give my heartfelt gratitude to Andrew and Jen of Raymond Lyle CPA for being my first official sponsor for the I Love It When podcast. If you're interested in being a sponsor, please reach out. I am very intentional about who I partner with, and I do not give referrals lightly. So please do reach out to Raymond Lyle CPA if you're looking for an excellent CPA. I also want to talk about taking inspired action. And all of this kind of feeds into when you pay more attention to your intuition, you can start to manifest things that you desire. And so there's an acronym that I came up with for manifestation to help people kind of remind them what needs to happen in order for you to manifest. And so I call it manifestation facts. Facts is the acronym. So the F stands for feel good. I've noticed that the better I feel, the more my manifestations come. The A stands for alignment. So when you are in alignment with you, saying yes to what you really want and no to what you really don't want, things come to you. You attract them rather than having to chase things in your life that you want. The C stands for clarity. And so what I've noticed is clarity is essential. I love clarity so much in the business world, in my personal life, everything. And if I say yes when I want to say no, the universe or our energy is confused. It's like, wait, I feel like you don't want to say yes, but you're saying yes. This is confusing. And so when you put that confusing energy out, confusion is usually what you get back. So clarity, super important. The T stands for thanks, thankful. I've noticed that when I acknowledge the signs that I get from my intuition, whether it be in numbers or an animal or some sort of a sign shows up, if I thank my angels and the universe for those signs, the manifestations come faster or the additional signs come faster. And then the S in facts stands for sync. I'm also learning more that it's about syncing up with the highest version of myself, more so than creating. So I really believe in not getting stuck on the work mentality. Focus on feeling good and taking the inspired action to align with the highest version of yourself. I really believe that we have been conditioned to overwork and not realize our power. And I would so much rather take 3 steps towards a goal than 10. And so much of my focus since I started my business has been slowing down, allowing myself to rest more, taking inspired action, which is usually fewer steps than what I used to do. And I'm finding that it feels so good. It feels so much better than the way I used to operate. It's at a pace that is natural with my body and not not at this pace that just burns me out and makes me resentful. So taking inspired action, it's really all about following those nudges. And so when you slow down and you start to listen and really connect with your body, you can't miss the signs that come. And so as an example, just over a year ago, which I think I shared at the beginning, I didn't really know what was supposed to come next in my business, but the only thing that kept coming to my mind when I would ask myself, and I would usually do this during a meditation or right after, and I would just say, what is my next action step? Podcast. Podcast, just the word podcast kept coming to mind. And so finally, after about 2 months, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start a podcast. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense because I'm putting my money towards something that doesn't necessarily make me money. And I also know that the ROI of doing something like this, you oftentimes you don't know what it's going to be. That's the magic and beauty of it. You don't know what's going to unfold from it. And so I started the podcast, and it has been a fantastic journey. And what I love and why this made so much sense for me is when you interview people on the podcast and different people listen to you, and you just make connections and your network builds in ways that you could never imagine because of this platform. So take that inspired action. Take it. It may not make sense to you, but I promise you, the cool thing is once you get there, you can look back and see how it makes sense later. Stepping into that unknown place, that place where you don't really know why you're led to do this, but you want to do it. It's super exciting. It's exciting, and the ROI of that and just the validation that you feel and the confidence that you will build from this is unlike anything I can describe to you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode about starting to build and work on your intuition. I would love to hear your stories about what you've done for yourself. And if you start meditation because of this or any of these different suggestions that I've offered, I would love to hear about how the journey is going for you. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So thank you so much for listening. Have a fantastic day.